1980s, a time when technology was taking leaps we had only dreamed of, and every new gadget felt like a step into the future. Back then, we were thrilled by things that today seem quaint or downright obsolete. But let's take a walk down memory lane to revisit those pieces of 80s tech that made us feel like we were living in a sci-fi movie. If you remember these, then you know just how exciting those days were. The Walkman. Who could forget the thrill of owning a Sony Walkman? This little device was revolutionary. It allowed us to take our music anywhere, anytime. Suddenly the world had a soundtrack, whether you were out for a jog, riding the bus, or simply lounging in your room. And those foam-covered headphones? Iconic. Do you remember how we used to rewind our cassettes with a pencil to save battery? VHS and VCRs. The ability to watch a movie at home was mind-blowing. Video rental stores popped up everywhere, and weekends often meant picking out the latest release or an old favorite to bring home. Those bulky VHS tapes may seem ancient now, but they were treasures back then. And rewinding a tape, that was just part of the experience. Did you ever forget to rewind before returning a rental? Cordless phones. Phones without cords. It might sound funny now, but cordless phones felt like magic. No more being chained to the kitchen while on a call. You could wander around the house, sometimes even out to the yard. Sure, they had limited range and that infamous antenna you had to pull out, but wow, we felt high-tech. Atari and early home gaming consoles. Before PlayStations and Xboxes, there was Atari. Remember that first exhilarating game of Pong? Or Space Invaders with its simple graphics but incredibly addictive gameplay? Atari set the stage for home gaming, turning our living rooms into miniature arcades. The graphics may have been basic, but back then, it was cutting-edge fun. The Boombox. The Boombox wasn't just a music player, it was a cultural icon. People carried these massive machines on their shoulders, bringing music to every gathering, whether it was a park, a beach, or just a street corner. And with dual cassette decks, you could even make mixtapes. Those tapes were our way of sharing music and making memories. Pager beepers. Only the coolest people had pagers in the 80s. These little devices made you feel important. If you had one, someone needed to reach you. Of course, you still had to find a phone to return the call, but that little buzz on your hip felt like a VIP alert every time. Remember the secret codes we'd send with numbers? The Commodore 64 and early home computers. The Commodore 64 brought computers to our homes for the first time. Imagine the thrill of seeing a cursor blinking on the screen, waiting for you to type something. From basic word processing to playing games like Frogger, it opened up a new world. If you ever used one, you know it was just as frustrating as it was exciting. Film cameras. Today's digital cameras make everything instant, but film cameras had their own kind of magic. Every shot mattered because film was precious, and you'd never know how the photos turned out until they were developed. Remember the excitement of picking up those photo prints and flipping through the pictures right there in the store. The cassette tape recorder. Before voice notes and digital recordings, we had cassette recorders. Recording your favorite songs from the radio, making mixtapes for friends, or even recording your own voice. It was all possible with these little gadgets. And let's be honest, who didn't hate it when the tape got tangled and you had to carefully wind it back with a pencil? The digital watch. A digital watch might seem basic now, but back then, it was pure futuristic magic on your wrist. The ability to check the time without moving hands? Amazing. And remember the calculator watches? Those tiny little buttons made us feel like we were doing advanced math on the go, even if it was just simple addition. If you're enjoying this blast from the past, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. There's plenty more nostalgic content waiting for you. LaserDisc Players. Long before DVDs, LaserDiscs promised high-quality video that was leaps ahead of VHS. These giant discs were the size of records, but provided sharper images and clearer sound. They were rare? But if you had one, it was like having a piece of the future in your living room. Did you ever get to watch a movie on a LaserDisc? Speak and Spell. This talking educational toy was groundbreaking for kids in the 80s. The idea that a machine could talk, spell, and quiz you was revolutionary. The robotic voice and the chunky, colorful buttons made learning feel futuristic and fun. Plus, it felt like having a mini computer all to yourself. Handheld electronic games. Game Boys hadn't hit the scene yet, but handheld games like Football and Simon were wildly popular. These little electronic gadgets with simple LED screens or colored lights were portable entertainment that kept kids entertained on long car rides or rainy days. Simple? Sure, but we were hooked. Electric typewriters. Electric typewriters were like something out of a sci-fi movie. They made typing easier, faster, and even included features like memory functions. If you had one, it was as if you owned a mini office right at home, complete with that distinctive clacking sound with every key press. The clapper. Clap on, clap off, the clapper. Who could forget this ingenious invention? It was a simple gadget that allowed you to turn your lights on or off with just a clap. It may seem funny now, but it made us feel like we had control over our home, almost like magic. 3D Viewmaster. With a pair of plastic binoculars and a reel of images, the Viewmaster transported us to other worlds in 3D. These weren't exactly tech by today's standards, but back then, seeing photos in 3D was mind-blowing. Remember inserting a new reel and pressing the lever to jump to the next scene? Pocket organizers. These little devices were like mini digital agendas. You could keep track of numbers, appointments, and even make notes. It was the first taste of a digital assistant that everyone could carry around. And for many, it felt like a gadget right out of James Bond. TV remote control with a cord. Not everyone had a remote control in the 80s, and for those who did, it was often connected to the TV by a cord. While not truly wireless, these remotes still felt futuristic because they allowed you to control the TV without getting up. Just don't trip over the cord. Disc cameras. Before digital cameras, disc cameras with their thin circular disc film were all the rage. The disc rotated inside the camera, snapping multiple shots on each side. They were quirky, cool, and felt high-tech, even if the image quality was hit or miss. Early car phones. Car phones in the 80s were the ultimate status symbol, giving a taste of mobile freedom. These early mobile phones were bulky, required installation, and only worked in cars, but they made anyone feel like a star or CEO. Did you know anyone lucky enough to have one? Answering machines. Before voicemail, answering machines were how we caught missed calls. Having one felt high-tech. It allowed us to leave a personalized greeting and play back messages. The thrill of coming home to see the little blinking light someone had called was a big part of daily life. Trapper Keeper notebooks. Okay, technically not tech, but Trapper Keepers were like the ultimate 80s organizational gadget. With their Velcro flaps, bright designs, and compartments for everything, these binders helped us feel prepared for anything school could throw at us, and flipping through those folders was incredibly satisfying. Cable TV with a channel box. The arrival of cable TV changed everything. If you were lucky enough to have it, you might remember the little black channel box with its buttons, and the thrill of browsing dozens of channels instead of the usual few. Cable was a game changer for home entertainment, introducing us to a whole new world of shows and movies. Digital alarm clocks with flip numbers. Those glowing flip number digital clocks were in almost every bedroom. Watching the numbers flip over was oddly mesmerizing. And hearing that loud alarm in the morning, there was no snooze button back then, was like a wake-up call from the future. Cassette-based personal computers. Commodore, Tandy, and Sinclair computers stored data on cassette tapes. It took forever to load anything, but back then, it was thrilling. Loading a game or program from a cassette felt like cracking open a world of possibilities, even if it took a bit of patience. Electric pencil, sharpeners. In a time when everything was manual, having an electric pencil sharpener in the classroom or at home felt incredibly advanced. Just pop the pencil in, and voila, sharp as a tack. Plus, the sound of that little motor was oddly satisfying. Instant cameras, Polaroids. The magic of snapping a photo and having it develop right before your eyes was unparalleled. Polaroids let us capture memories instantly, and that little wait for the image to appear was exciting every single time. Nothing else could match the thrill of seeing your memories come to life in seconds. Portable TVs. These small, boxy portable TVs were a marvel, watching TV on the go. While they were often black and white and had a tiny screen, just the idea of watching your favorite show outside of the living room was enough to blow our minds. Did you ever try to get a good signal on one? The Rubik's Cube. Not only was it a fun puzzle, but it felt like an engineering marvel in itself. The Rubik's Cube seemed to symbolize the 80s drive for challenge, innovation, and problem solving. People spent hours twisting and turning it, either to solve it or just for the satisfying click of each rotation. Digital weighing scales. Digital scales were high-tech compared to old mechanical ones. Seeing your weight pop up on a digital display felt like something from the future, especially in the days before everything was digitized. They made their way into bathrooms everywhere, marking a shift toward modern home gadgets. Each of these items added a unique touch to daily life in the 80s, making the decade feel even more futuristic. If you remember using any of these, drop a comment and let us know. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more trips back in time.